Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 161. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, 1 week from today, the Pittsburgh Steelers will report to St. Vincent College in Latrobe, PA, for the start of the 2025 training camp. They will practice the next day, and so the quiet time is almost over. Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, doing fine. Happy Wednesday to you. We're getting close. Got about a week left here, right? Until they report to the Latrobe, and the first practice is what, on the 24th, right?
24th, the next day.
All right. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty time. Everybody, all of our guys better get some good rest this weekend here and all. But probably not that full of a show today. We got a few different topics to talk about, and obviously we're getting closer to training camp. We'll start coming to the end of the 90 and 30 series. So I don't know. We're a little bit behind on that still. So what we're going to knock out about nine or 12 of those players today, I guess.
Yeah, we'll play it by ear, but we'll get a good chunk of those names discussed. But before we do that, no breaking, no pressing news, but we do finally have finality on the contracts of Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. I know we've already known some information, talked about it quite a bit, but the official numbers are out about every single detail, crossing every T and dotting every I of these deals. So start with Jalen Ramsey, Dave. That's the more complex and complicated contract. It has been from the get-go. It's one reason why Ramsey had a limited trade market, one reason why he ended up in Pittsburgh. So kind of just give us the highlights of what is new, what we've learned about Ramsey's contract.
Yeah, this one's really, really confusing, and took going through the spreadsheet about 12 different times with it last night once it finally hit the NFLPA and all. And I think there's still some question about whether or not the Steelers can maybe still take that option bonus, the full amount this year, but at least the way it matches up with the NFLPA right now, it looks like what has happened here is, the base salary of $1.255 million that was already on Ramsey's contract comes over and stays where that is. We already knew that the Miami Dolphins paid the $4 million roster bonus that Ramsey was due back in March, so that was already off the table as far as that goes. Since the trade happened, right after that, we also learned that the Dolphins were going to pay another $3 million of the 2025 presumed of the 18.98 option bonus that was remaining in Ramsey's contract as well too. So they effectively paid $7 million, and I don't know about whether or not he had his work, if he achieved his workout bonus, but I don't think he did. But that was $100,000, and if indeed he went and did all that, the Dolphins would have been on the hook for that as well too. But we know that they paid $7 million of money that was owed to Jalen Ramsey in 2025. There, if you look at the remaining, also Ramsey had another $765,000 in per game roster bonuses in 2025, 2026, and I believe 2027 as well too. And it seems like that's all gotten worked out of that all those years, as well as the option bonuses in future years of 2026, 2027. Both those amounts were a little bit over $18 million. In fact, the last one in 2027, I think, was closer to $19 million overall. We had a report earlier, I don't know, it's been probably about a week ago now that the Steelers converted that to base salary. It seems like, according to the NFLPA numbers, the Steelers took the remaining 15.98 option bonus along with the $765,000 per game roster bonus, turned that into a signing bonus, and then prorated that out for 5 years, which actually ate into one of the void years that remained on Ramsey's contract as well too. If you back out the math of everything, it at least initially here looks like Jalen Ramsey's salary cap number for 2025, $4.904 million. If you want to look at this about how much cash the Steelers seem to have invested in Jalen Ramsey in 2025, that would be a $19.5 million dollar total there. And I forgot to add the fact that the Steelers also pushed ahead $1.5 million from the base salary that Jalen Ramsey had on the books for 2026 into 2025 to give him more additional money as part of that $19.5 million. And that, along with the $765,000 roster bonus and the remaining 15.98 option bonus, is the total amount that the Steelers seemingly, prorated over the 5 years there. So, that's where we're at right now. The long and short of it, at least the way it hit the NFLPA public salary cap number as of right now, is a $4.904 million cap charge with Ramsey. And as I said, that gets confusing. There are roster bonuses still supposedly in this deal of 2026, 2027, and 2028 of $2 million. Those seem to be due in March. So the Steelers will have a decision to make with him. And the way this thing looks like it shakes out right now, Ramsey stands a chance to, assuming he plays well enough in 2025, he's scheduled to earn another $19.5 million in cash in 2026, and it looks like his cap number, or at least right now, would be $23.149 million in 2026 as well too. Do we expect him to play beyond 2026 for the Steelers? More than likely not, but at least it is open for him to do so. And obviously, whether or not they pay, keep him on the roster past 2025 will obviously depend on how he plays this upcoming season. But that seems to be where we're at right now, at least with the initial cap charge hitting the NFLPA with Ramsey of $4.904 million.
And so this deal really is year to year. Is that still fair to say overall?
Yeah, it is. Now, obviously, you know, with this option bonus and the proration and everything like that, I guess they stand to have some dead money related here. And I would think that probably if they decided to not pay that roster bonus next March on him and cut Ramsey before paying that, they might designate him as a June 1st cap casualty. That way that they can take only like a little less than $4 million in dead money in 2026, and then have the remaining, what is it, 10.947 million in dead money in 2027. But obviously that's something to worry about at a later date there. Overall, but yeah, the long and short of it is they could definitely get out of this, and even with the dead money, they could potentially save some cap space next year. But all this is going to depend on how Ramsey plays this year and if he wants to remain in Pittsburgh.
And obviously, the goal is to have him in Pittsburgh for longer than just 2025, at least the 2 seasons, as you said, and you take it from there. So that's probably the team's hope and expectation is 2025, 2026, and evaluate from there on out.
Right.
On Jonnu Smith, less complicated. He got the 1-year extension as part of that trade over from Miami to Pittsburgh. And so that was the raise he was looking for, the one the Dolphins were not willing to give. So finalize the details on Jonnu Smith's deal.
Yeah, the most interesting aspect, I think, when it comes to him is how this thing ended up being structured. All we had heard kind of going into this is that he got a new deal added on for an additional $12 million. If was, I think, the original report there. I think the according to the NFLPA, now he had Jonnu Smith before signing this extension was scheduled to earn what 3.99 million in total in total cash. Some of that was base salary, and I think he had another $500,000 roster bonus as part of that. What the Steelers ended up doing as part of that, tacking on this new deal, they took 2.735 million of the 3.99 total of base salary and roster bonus that Jonnu Smith was previously scheduled to earn in 2025, in addition to another 5.01 of the 12.01 in new money added to the deal, and turned that into a signing bonus and then prorated that out over 2 years. That lowered his base salary down to his minimum for his accredited season down to 1.255 million. The bonus proration on that is 3.872 5 million. That makes his new cap charge for 2025 being $5,127,500. Now, the nuts and bolts of this, once again, is Ramsey was scheduled to earn 3.99 million in 2025. Now, with the new base salary and the new signing bonus, he's going to have a new cash total of 9 million. So he goes from 3.99 million to 9 million in 2025. So that's quite a nice little raise. He obviously wanted out of Miami because he wanted more money. So he gets a much stronger cash flow, obviously, in 2025. The remaining $7 million left on the deal is his base salary for 2026. And that obviously is the remaining part of the $12.01 million that was added to the deal there. This is probably going to confuse the heck out of most people listening to this, but that's the breakdown of that. And I don't believe that's guaranteed, obviously, in 2026. So he gets a raise for 2025, a nice one at that, of a little bit more than $5 million. He has a chance to earn $7 million in total, so a two-year cash flow total of $16 million. Now, the interesting part about this is because a new year was added on, and the new money in this was 12.01 million. That is his new technical APY, and that's going to confuse everybody as well, too, because they look at the $16 million, and you divide that by 2, you say, well, isn't that an $8 million, APY? Well, that's not the way they figure these things. They look at the new cash total and then divide that by the new year added. So he got one new year added with a new cash total being 12.1 million. That's technically his APY. And the funny thing about that is that exactly matches the APY of one Pat Freiermuth on the roster. So that's how they kind of finagled that. They didn't step on Freiermuth's toes, and they didn't disrespect Jonnu Smith in the process. Both those guys have an APY of 12.1 million in total, and both Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith are tied as the 8th highest paid tight ends in the NFL as of the time of this morning, so to speak. There. So once again, the big note here is that Jonnu Smith's 2025 cap charge is $5.1275 million. If he's still on the roster in 2026, his cap total for that year will be $10.872,500 when it comes to that. So that seems to be where we're at right now. And I guess the only when you trade away Minkah Fitzpatrick, you technically cleared $5.5 million in the base salary that you're no longer on the hook for. The Steelers did take a dead money charge on him in moving him with the fine, because he still had bonus proration left in 2025 and 2026, each in the amounts of $6.855 million. Because of this trade happening after June 1st, the Steelers will incur, half, half this year and half next year. So $6.855 million goes on the books for Minkah Fitzpatrick as dead money for 2025, and he'll also have a dead money hit in that same amount in 2026 as a result of this deal. Now, when you math the math out, as I like to say, as of right now, and this matches the NFLPA salary cap public page as well too, the Steelers actually created a little bit of salary cap space as a result of this trade, $25.425 million, a little bit more than that. Overall, closer to $25.4258 million, if you will. And that's obviously a lot of salary cap space for this time of the off season. I am interested to see maybe if they can wind up taking this full option bonus when it matures, which I think is week 1, whether or not that full amount can be rolled up into this year, because they certainly have the cap space to do that, and that would take all the proration off the board for the future years as well too. So we'll have to probably wait a little bit longer to find out the true matriculation of the cap charge when it comes to Jonnu Smith, but at least not Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey, but at least for now, as I mentioned earlier, it's technically counted as a $4.904 million cap charge right now. It seems like for Jalen Ramsey. We've talked a lot about. And look, once again, that's a lot of cap space for this time of year. Obviously, if this team goes about and signs TJ Watt to a contract extension, we expect his cap number to drop probably, I don't know, $8, $9, $10 million as a result of that deal. We've talked about what will the Steelers do with Chris Boswell? Will they bump up his cash in this year and maybe use up $3 million or so in additional cap space that way? I don't think there's much finagling to do overall. We'll be interested to see how the initial 53-man roster shakes out. Obviously, you got guys up in the rule of 51 right now, such as Cordell Patterson, Cole Holcomb, Dean Lowry. Heck, I think even Max Sharping is in the rule of 51 right now. Are all those guys going to make the 53-man roster? And if not, there's potentially a little bit of salary cap money and cash to be saved with both those guys there. So long and short of it here is, after the trade, the Steelers did spend a little bit extra more cash, because you're spending $19.5 million on Ramsey this year. You obviously now have $9 million cash spending for Jonnu Smith this year. And then you have $15.5 million in cash going out the door when it comes to Minkah Fitzpatrick. So you effectively, spent a little bit of additional cash for 2025 as a result of this deal, even though on paper you cleared a little bit of cap space overall there. So that should be the nuts and bolts of everything. The Steelers look absolutely fantastic when it comes to cash spending and cap space right now. No issues there, and I don't expect this team to have to restructure any contracts. And if they did, Pat Freiermuth would probably be the guy that they go to, but and I've said this for several weeks now, it does not appear as though they're going to have to restructure any contracts this year.
Hypothetically, for those wondering, is there cap space to pull off a trade for Terry McLaurin and Jauan Jennings in Washington and San Francisco, respectively? Now, it doesn't seem like either player is imminently about to be traded. McLaurin expressed frustration yesterday. He's not had conversations with Washington's front office for a month, but he says he does not want to be traded. He wants to stay in Washington, and the Niners seem like they want to keep Jauan Jennings. But hypothetically, could Pittsburgh have the space and the financial resources to acquire either and pay them what they're likely going to be paid?
Absolutely. I mean, you can always make this work, especially as this team sits here right now at 25, 425, 794 under the cap, technically on paper from the NFLPA. And you throw in the fact that, if you get a deal done with TJ Watt, and even if you, uh, even if you give Boswell an extra $3 million or so for this season, and use an additional $3 million in cap space there. You still have plenty of cap space to work with. As mentioned, look, I mean, you can go to Pat Fryermuth and do a restructure. You can go to Alex Highsmith and do a restructure. I mean, there's what, $14-15 million in available cap space if you really wanted to touch both of those contracts there. So you can always make it work. I think the biggest question is how much more cash does this team want to spend in 2025 above and beyond signing TJ Watt to a contract extension, and maybe giving Chris Boswell another $3 million in cash this year. Because if you go out, if you trade for a Terry McLaurin, or he's obviously going to want a new deal, right? So that means that you're going to have to pump more. And his deal, I would imagine, he would want it to look a lot along the lines of DK Metcalf. I just don't see how you get around trading for him and not giving him the exact same deal, to be quite honest with you.
Well, he's older, though. I don't know if he would get a 5-year deal. That seems pretty
Yeah.
far for a 30-something-year-old receiver.
But regardless, I mean, you're still going to have a big cash expenditure.
Sure.
You're still going to probably make him, the APY about the same, to be quite honest with you.
Sure.
So I mean, it's still going to math out as a big cash spend overall. When it might not be 5 years, but I think you're still going to make the APY match that of DK Metcalf. I don't think there's probably would be a way from that on the Steelers' end if they did indeed trade for him. But then again, you got the additional cash output because of the signing bonus in the first year of the deal, yada, yada, that goes along with that. Really the same for Jauan Jennings as well, too. He wants a new contract as well. So if you trade for him, you're going to have to still satisfy his needs of a new contract. You're going to have to spend additional cash to get that done with signing bonus and base salary, which obviously would up your cash spending for 2025 as well too. Is there rules that say the Steelers can't spend 120% of the cap number this year in cash? Absolutely not. I have had them paying of spending around 102.5% of this year's cap number in cash, but there's nothing to say they can't go way over that amount as well, especially if they're planning on putting cash on the books in 2026 for both Watt, and say they go out and sign and trade for either one of these wide receivers. So that's a long way of saying, could they make it work in both the cash and the cap department? Absolutely. But I think the plausibility of that happening at this point really does not seem very high.
Just to entertain the hypothetical for one question more, to use your phrase, if you had your druthers, would you rather acquire Jauan Jennings or Terry McLaurin? Given all considerations of potential cost to acquire him, contract, etc., fit.
Man, Terry McLaurin's quite the route runner, man. He's a more established guy, and I know he's coming off injury and a little bit older and all like that. But I got a feeling he's got a couple, 2-3 years probably left in him.
You've always been a fan of Scary Terry.
Oh, man. And yeah, I mean, look, I don't dislike Jauan Jennings. Those are
sure.
We've had plenty of conversations about him over the course of the last 16, 18 months or whatnot. I would just trust that, Jauan, I think he's a fine player. I just think Terry's a better route runner. I think he can do more stuff with him. What a compliment that would be to a guy like DK Metcalf, and especially for 2025. And, assuming I could get 2 or 3 years out of him, I would definitely go that way, with Terry McLaurin. No disrespect to Jauan Jennings.
It's close, and I do like McLaurin's speed, and offering some of what George Pickens offered, that big playability that would see more two high looks, soften up the run game. But I think I'm going to lean Jauan Jennings, a bit cheaper, younger, more physical, really fitting the ethos of the Arthur Smith system, really a Steelers type of receiver. So I'll lean Jennings.
All right. I think the latest reports, though, are what? Terry McLaurin's still very, very unhappy, but he's unhappy, but doesn't sound like he wants to be traded, right?
Right. Like I mentioned, wants a new contract, does not want a new team. Now, Jonnu Smith did not want to leave Miami. He was on record saying that. Drew Rosenhaus was on record saying that. We want to finish our career in Miami, love the Dolphins, but the contract wasn't coming, and so he ultimately was moved. So the same logic could still apply to Terry McLaurin, but his intent is to stay in Washington, and Jauan Jennings has little leverage here. He may want out if a deal is not coming, but we both think the Niners will keep him ultimately.
Yeah, and I think what did Adam Schefter have to say about that on NFL Live yesterday?
I don't have the exact quote, but according to one Instagram post of a 49ers blog or social media page, that they've gotten some calls about Jauan Jennings, but the Niners do not intend to trade him.
And that makes a lot of sense at its core, especially, you got Brandon Ayuk, who sounds like he's going to start training camp off on active PUP. I still think they probably are expecting him to be ready by week 1, but coming off the knee injury there, and I mean, who do they have at wide receiver beyond Ayuk? And I mean, obviously they got Ricky
Ricky
Pearsall.
Pearsall, cowing from draft classes.
Yeah, so I mean, I know they've got other options there, but it really seems like you'd be cutting yourself deep at the wide receiver position in one off season to get rid of Deebo Samuel and Jauan Jennings. So I have a feeling they're going to end up working something out with Jennings, and I expect McLaurin to stay a Commander as well too. I mean, you got a young quarterback over there that really played well in his rookie season. Seems to have a connection with McLaurin, and why would you go mess with that so early in that quarterback's career? And McLaurin, I think, unequivocally would like to finish his career there in Washington. So why wouldn't you make that happen? It makes sense for both those players, Jennings and McLaurin, to stay put.
It does, but McLaurin's really wanted a contract the last 2 years, and for whatever reason, a deal has not gotten done. Washington's made moves. They've been aggressive. They've added other receivers like Deebo Samuel, but McLaurin has been still waiting for his turn. So that's a situation worth watching. If there was one that was going to get moved, who was more likely, do you think, Dave? I'll say McLaurin would be more likely to be traded than Jennings would be.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I don't know how much more probability I'd add to him than Jennings, but yeah, I my arm could be twisted to say McLaurin probably.
All right, but both are low and we'll monitor, but probably not worth spending a whole lot more time talking about those two unless something changes over the next couple of weeks. All right, Dave, I don't think there's any other big Steelers news happening over the last 24, 48 hours, so we can dive into our 90 and 30 series, really your 90 and 30 series you do each year. We'll try to catch up and get through as many names as possible today. And here's a name that I recently wrote about being overlooked on this roster in terms of guys we just don't talk about very often, myself included. We talk about the defensive line group and the competition. We often don't mention this man's names. It's Sezi Otomewa, who was signed as a free agent from Jacksonville earlier this offseason, has appeared in a handful of NFL games, has the size and profile Pittsburgh looks for, but still will have to battle hard and do a lot to earn a spot on this 53-man roster.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you put him on that list of players that we don't seem to talk much about. I'm trying to find out where I am in my 90 and 30 series so I can go over what I wrote
Yeah,
about on
Otomewa,
this.
Patterson, Pierre will be the first three we'll start off with.
All right. Let's see. With him originally selected in the 5th round, out of Minnesota by the Vikings. He signed with the Steelers on a one-year contract back in March, following his previous team, the Jaguars, not issuing him an exclusive rights free agent tender. Spent the 2023 on the Jaguars practice squad. They re-signed him to a reserve future contract in early 2024. He remained on their 53-man roster throughout the season. He was inactive for all but 4 games last season with the Jaguars. Logged just 90 defensive snaps in 2024, just 43 more in special teams, credited 4 total tackles, had a half a sack, 2 quarterback hits, and 1 fumble recovery. Didn't log a lot of time with the Minnesota Vikings during his 2022 rookie season. He is a guy that I think the most intriguing thing with him when he, I believe, invited to the combine, measured in at 6'0", 280 pounds with 9 3/8-inch hands, 34 7/8-inch arms. He doesn't have a problem feeding himself. During his college career, mainly lined up outside a tackle as a defensive end. He did, however, play a little bit in the A and B gaps in his 4 college seasons. His limited NFL snaps to date, he is mostly lined up in the B gap as a defensive tackle there. One of the biggest questions I have when it comes to the outlook of him, when these beat reporters show up at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, I'm running off to the side during those first scrums. I'm finding Otomewo, and I'm asking him, "How much do you weigh?" Because he
Get on the
can't.
scale that I brought
Yeah.
with me, says he.
Because once again, he all we have to go off of, really, because it's hard to know what to trust with the team pages and all like that, with the Jaguars and Minnesota. And I haven't researched down to see if he's updated his own weight in media reports, but 6'0", 5'3", there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's exactly what the Steelers look for when it comes to that length, along with the 34 7/8-inch arms. I would hope by now he's closer to 300 or slightly over 300. I mean, we're only talking about, maybe needing 15 more pounds, get him up to 295. But 280 pounds is a tad bit on the light side, and I would be interested to know exactly how much he weighs once training camp gets underway, because if indeed he does weigh in 295, 300, with his height at 6'5" 3/8" and those long arms, that you don't get more prototypical than that when it comes to what the Steelers look for defensive tackle / defensive ends there. He projects, obviously, to be a defensive tackle in the Steelers' defensive scheme. This is a team that obviously invested heavily in their defensive line room this offseason with Harmon and Black in the draft. Re-signed Isaiah Loudermilk. They inked Daniel Aquale to a 1-year contract. You also have Logan Lee, Dean Lowry, a couple other guys fighting for roster spots. This guy, it's good that you put him in the not talked about players on this roster right now. This, depending on how many defensive linemen this team keeps overall, there is an outside chance that I think Asezi could sneak onto this 53-man roster if certain things break this way, maybe this summer, and if he has a good camp in preseason.
He should just be lumped in with all the other guys fighting for a spot, whether that's a Loudermilk or a Logan Lee or Leal, depending on what you call him. Maybe his odds aren't as good as Black and Aquale. I would kind of put those guys more towards front runners for some of the top backup spots, but Pittsburgh always carries at least 6 defensive linemen, and more recently have carried 7. So you can assume they'll keep 7 again, and there'll be a spot for the taking. He'll have to earn it, just like anyone who ends up grabbing that job will have to earn it. There's so much competition that no one can just waltz in and be handed the job. That's good. That's how it should be. And his resume is fairly light, but there's a profile there that's interesting. There's some NFL experience that's interesting. It is a little, on the surface, alarming for him to not be tendered by Jacksonville as an exclusive rights free agent with basically no risk attached to that. But it was a new regime coming in, so they turned those rosters over pretty good. And so that has me a little less concerned than it would have been otherwise had it been the same regime saying, yeah, we don't want to bring it back for even basically, a minimum level deal with no risk and no guarantees. at all. So the odds are steep, but even if he makes the practice squad, an injury happens in season, gets the call up, never know what could happen. So just a guy who should be given his due to be talked about in that D-line competition room like the others.
Yeah, and once again, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on him once he gets started in training camp overall, and I will be interested to see if anybody asks him how much he weighs because he does have that prototypical size and length overall, and maybe after we get done with this podcast, I'll research whether or not because the Steelers, what do the Steelers have him listed at? Do you have?
280, 282. Yeah, some media outlets range him from 282 to 284. That's what they list him at, but we know weights can be fickle. And for pro days, he came in at 280, but everyone drops weight for pro days and combines to
Right.
run fast and move well and weights bulk up. I don't think he even has to be 300 pounds. Keanu Benton's barely 300 pounds, and he's your starting nose tackle. 290, I think, could play for a guy that's not going to be playing 500 snaps this season. Hopefully not, at least.
Sure, and look, I mean, his build, I haven't got a good look at him yet, in as is shape just now, but I mean, it's not the end all do all weighing 280. It's just prototypically you like those guys a little bit heavier than that. So, regardless of what he weighs, he's got the length there, and yeah, I think at worst we could be talking about a practice squad candidate here for sure.
Yeah, and Cam Hayward's going to get, I'm sure, a ton of off days. He'll probably get more off days than practice days in training camp this year. So that's going to open up some spots. Now, Otomoewa is not going to get those first team reps when Hayward's out. I wonder who will. Will it be Aquale? Will it be Loudermilk? Loudermilk has traditionally done so in the past, but just more reps to go around. Frankly, Dave, I think one reason why people don't talk about him too much is his name is not super easy to pronounce. And so it's a convenient way to kind of ignore that. Even, I'm still trying to work on getting the pronunciation down. I kind of say it once in my head and kind of roll with it, say it confidently, but I'm pretty sure it's Otomoewa. See, I'm struggling right now, but point is a guy that should be talked about a little bit more.
Yeah, most definitely. I enjoyed writing that one up as well too.
All right, let's talk about Cordero Patterson, a guy still on roster. Some thought after Pittsburgh's free agency and draft class additions of Kenneth Gainwell and Caleb Johnson that maybe Pittsburgh would be giving Patterson to heave ho. He still remains on roster. The big question is why? Is there a chance to make the 53, or is Pittsburgh just hanging on to make sure the group stays healthy throughout the summer?
Yeah, you kind of wonder if maybe he's down there with the red stapler down like in Office Space down there. Have they just not fixed the glitch yet? And, with him, I kind of envision, especially after Gainwell was added and this team drafted Caleb Johnson, I kind of thought that they might do Cordell Patterson a solid and give him a chance to catch on somewhere else. But I mean, you don't have a lot invested with him overall. He signed a 2-year, $6 million contract last year that included a $1.9 million signing bonus, and base salaries in 2024 1.3 million, just 2.8 million I think this year is what his base salary is. So obviously came over from the Atlanta Falcons and Arthur Smith knew about him over there with Atlanta. Brought in to obviously be the team's primary kickoff returner on the heels of the new kickoff rules and a backup running back. He played in 13 regular season games last season in addition to the lone playoff game. He did miss 4 consecutive contests due to that ankle injury that he sustained just as he was starting to get his ankles under him in that game against Indianapolis, if you will. Really, that was the big spark of that game, and the running game was several runs right in a row by Cordell Patterson, and on the last one that he had, he hurt the ankle, and that was it for him for a couple of games there. Kickoff returner, not a lot to talk about overall. It returned just 11 of those for 240 yards with a long of 33 yards. He is now 34 years old. It feels like his best days as a kickoff returner are likely behind him, especially with the new NFL rules. Barring injury, it's hard to find a place for him on this roster if we're being serious here, and especially if we expect Kenneth Gainwell to make the roster. Obviously, Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson. If you pencil in Gainwell, if you go ahead and pencil in 4 total tight ends or / fullbacks on this roster, it's incredibly hard to carve out a spot for a guy unless you are totally convinced that this guy can give you a boost in the kick return game. And I would imagine a few other guys are going to get an opportunity to show their wares in that department as well too. So for now, he's there. He's cheap enough that you got the cap space and all like that. You don't have to rush him out of the door, and you can protect yourself from injury moving forward into this offseason. But you do have to wonder if everybody stays healthy in that running back slash tight end fullback room this summer. For the most part, here you have to wonder if Patterson's going to survive the final roster cut down.
You do, even after Pittsburgh added Trey Sermon following rookie minicamp, another running back in that mix. But there's obviously connection between Arthur Smith and Patterson. There is versatility. And I'll still sit there and say that Patterson looked okay before his ankle sprain last year. That first month, remember back to that Colts game, he ran well. And everyone's saying, oh, Najee Harris is terrible. Get Patterson more carries. And then Patterson rolls his ankle. Doesn't get a kick return until November. And did not look like the same guy and probably was never fully healthy off that ankle sprain after missing a month of the season. But yeah, the proof is in the pudding. He was last in kick return average among those with double-digit returns. Pittsburgh ranked last overall in that category last year. That was the primary reason why Patterson was brought in, with better running back depth and frankly even better receiver depth compared to last year. It's hard to see where Patterson fits.
There were a couple of times last season where I thought Patterson looked good. The preseason run had a nice little move halfway through that, if I remember, a cut or whatnot. I said, okay,
it's Detroit.
Yeah, I said, all right, maybe there's something left in the tank here. And then obviously those handful of runs against the Colts in that game. Outside of that, it felt, and look, maybe he was having an ankle issue before that Colts game and aggravated it even more. And maybe he was a little bit slowed upon. For the most part, outside of preseason in that game against the Colts, man, to me, it felt like he was running in concrete shoes for a lot of the time.
Well, it was after the injury. He ran well in the Chargers game before. He ran well in the Colts game before getting hurt. I assume the injury just set him back. And when you're 30-something years old, you don't heal as quickly as you used to, and did not look like the same guy, for sure.
Look, Cordell and I have a history. I have disrespected him all the way back to the time he was drafted there, and the fact that he has stuck around this league as long as he has, and started as a wide receiver and kind of morphed into a running back, and has made considerable runs there. He's kind of the guy that you better learn your lesson of counting him out. But it feels like it's going to take an injury or something along those lines for him to remain in Pittsburgh. Will he end up, if he gets cut, will he end up on a team somewhere else? Probably. And he'll probably rattle off a kick return with another team. But it just feels like where we sit right now with the health of this roster that he's a bit of a long shot here to stick around for 2025 in Pittsburgh.
I'm with you there, Dave. Let's go to James Pierre, a guy, probably a bubble type player, maybe inside looking out, was brought back after a brief stint in Washington last year as Pittsburgh scrambled to find some gunners who could go out there and play well, and ended up finding outside names in Skoranek and bringing back Pierre. And that's the role I assume Pierre will be fighting to keep this year. The good news is I think Pittsburgh's cornerback depth a whole lot better than a year ago, which won't press Pierre into action should there be an injury as it did last year and in seasons past.
Kind of one of those boomerang players. You throw him away and he turns around, he comes back in the other door there, right? And the big draw to James Pierre at this point is his special teams play, most notably his play as a gunner. And, he rode off, Washington last year and signed a free agent contract for a little bit more than what he could have earned most places around the NFL, and he ended up not making the roster, and back to Pittsburgh he comes there. He does have experience as a cornerback, but as I think at this point in his career, he's not a guy that you want to throw out there and trust a lot of snaps to. I think he's a guy that can give you snaps there in emergency on the outside, but make no mistake, this is a guy that's got Danny Smith's eye, and I think he's inside the bubble as we sit here right now. and mainly because of need to see if someone else can wrestle away this gunner job from him. They know what they have in him as that, so I don't know if I use a lot of snaps during the preseason on special teams, putting James Pierre out there at gunner. I want to see if anybody else can equal what we already know James Pierre can do. And then also, obviously, can that player help you a little bit on defense in a pinch on top of it? So, I wouldn't run out and buy any James Pierre jerseys this offseason, but in the same breath, I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here in week 1 and James Pierre's on the 53-man roster because of his ability on special teams.
How many corners do you expect Pittsburgh to keep on the initial 53?
Yeah, I would think, max 6 probably? I suppose you could get away with 5. Didn't they technically have 5 on the 53 last year in week 1 with Cameron Sutton on the reserve suspended list?
It's a fair point. Was Pierre initially on the practice squad before he was promoted to the full 53? I'm going to check our initial 53. We do that post right after cutdowns each year. Yes, they only had 5. Can you name the 5 corners they kept on the initial 53 right after cutdowns last year, Dave?
It was obviously Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Beanie Bishop.
Yep. 2 more.
Darius Rush, I think, was still on the roster at that time.
Yep. 1 more. Still on the roster today.
Not James Pierre. I'm drawing a blank here.
Want me to give you the answer?
Hold on a minute. Let me double check something here real quick.
Okay, now I think you're looking it up. I'm just messing with you.
Go ahead.
Corey Trice Jr.
Oh, right.
You got
Corey
Darius
Trice.
Rush. I would have not remembered Darius Rush had you given me that question. So that was the 5, but then they added Pierre and Rush ended up going away. And so those were the moves. So I think, I don't know by week 1 when they played the Falcons, if they were at 6 or what that exactly looked like. But I think with the cornerback additions they've made this year, Ramsey and Eccles and Slay, still at Porter and Trice and Beanie, I think 6 is very much the likely number. So let's map it out. You have Porter and Slay and Ramsey as your top 3. You have Eccles as a number 4. Bishop is 5. Trice is 6. So then do you run out of numbers there? Does he get squeezed out? Do you keep 7? Do you go lighter at safety? They really could get interesting, Dave.
Yeah, and I think Trice, who I just wrote up yesterday, we're not going to get to him today. That's an interesting guy to talk about. I'm not so sure I'd sit here right now and run out and buy a Corey Trice Jr. Jersey as well too, because I mean, look, he hadn't even played 200 snaps, I don't think, yet in the NFL, and he's missed 1 full season. And how many games last year? 6.
Several.
Games last year due to what was his hamstring
against the Chargers on a punt.
And even once they activated him back from the 53-man back from injured reserve last year, Alex, as a designated return player, he was inactive the first 2 weeks back.
But then he ended up playing when Dante Jackson had his back issue, started against the Bengals. I think if he's healthy and looks fine, play-wise, it's hard to cut that guy because there's still a lot of talent. It just, does he stay healthy? Is he healthy enough to make the 53? If he is, it's a hard guy to cut.
Right, but is this a 2 dogs, 1 bone situation with him and potentially maybe showing he can play the gunner and make James Pierre? Or does Beanie Bishop come into this talk somehow, some way? You're right. I mean, if you only keep, how many did you say? 6? I mean, if you're saying 6, you obviously have Ramsey, Porter, Slay. There's 3 right there.
Yeah, I just ran through the names.
Is Eccles going to make it? You would think he is,
yeah,
right?
on a 2-year deal. I'll be very surprised if he was cut.
All right, so there's 4 right there, and you got two spots, and you've still got to figure in Beanie Bishop, potentially Corey Trice, or James Pierre, right? So unless you kept 7, one of those guys is going to be an odd man out, right?
But there's a case to be made they'll keep 7 because you may only keep 4 safeties with Minka gone, and so you have Elliott, Thornhill, Killebrew. You're not keeping 5 safeties. I can't see it right now unless a couple guys really emerge. Really, even that
Right.
fourth spot is up in the air, and Ramsey can play some safety, and we'll see who else gets some flexibility. A reader asking about could Trice get some safety looks as a background there. Not a bad suggestion or thought. So yeah, I think this could be because you kind of look at DBs in general. How many defensive backs do you keep? And you could go 7 corners and 4 safeties this year, get you to 11, which is about what they keep on a 53 to start each year.
And if you kept 7 corners, one of those guys would probably be on the inactive list.
Oh, sure, for sure. The question would appear if he's your starting gunner, does somebody else go down? Those are all questions for later in the season. But you could at the very least, it's 2 dogs, 1 bone for James Pierre and Dante Kent. If these guys, the whole group stays healthy, it's really hard to see both those guys making it.
Yeah, that's another interesting point there. Especially, I mean, if you only keep, I mean, if you go ahead and say, okay, they'll keep 7 definitely. I mean, you carved out 3 spots for Beanie, Trice, and Pierre. Then the odd man out's going to be Kit there.
Right, right. So no guarantee you're not going to call Trice. Do you call Beanie a lock right now, Dave?
I'd be careful with all that, and I'm not trying to disrespect him, but it's going to be it. If you told me right now that you guarantee me that 7's going to be the number, I would say yeah, he's a lock.
Okay, but if I told you it's 6,
it gets that's where I think it gets real interesting. Now, look, we're talking about this in the middle of July. These, as I always say,
I know you were going there.
You get to week 1, these things magically have a way to working themselves out on their own without making the decisions, whether it be injury or what have you. So it's fun to have the conversations right now, but by the time you get to week 1 of the regular season, it's like, oh, well, that took care of itself there. It was very easy to pick the 6 or the 7 or whatever the number ends up being. But long story short, I mean, I think there's a lot of conversation to be had about Pierre, Trice, and Beanie. And look, I think Beanie Bishop had a fantastic rookie season, but you bring in a guy like Eccles, and you obviously got guys that are suited to play in the slot like Ramsey, and God forbid, if Porter could take some occasional snaps in there. Slay hasn't done it a lot, but he's capable in there. And where's Beanie Bishop's special teams value stack up within all this as well too? Trice can obviously play in some dime inside as well too. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying when it comes to those 3 guys in particular, Pierre, Trice, and Beanie Bishop, I don't know if I'd run out and buy their jersey until we know a little bit more.
I'll keep them in my shopping cart for now. With Pierre, just last thought on him, he's a talented guy. Physically, he checks the boxes. He's big, he's physical, he can tackle, he's got length, just everything above the neck. He just was always a guy that's hard to trust, some mental mistakes, some errors. And so that's always the thing that's held him back and really made him a special teamer more so than a defending, on-field cornerback.
With Pierre?
Right, with Pierre. That's always been to me his big drawback.
Yeah, he just what did Butler say about him a few years ago?
I do not remember.
About trusting his eyes and all like that, and trusting the defense and all. You don't want to get in a situation where James Pierre has to play a lot of snaps for you on defense, period.
And Pittsburgh has built the roster where he won't and still has to make the team. So the depth is a whole lot better than seasons ago. From one corner to another, Pierre to Joey Porter Jr., big 3rd season for him. So he's a pretty polarizing guy. There's some guys that really like Joey Porter Jr., think he's number 1 corner. Some people think he's overrated. Where do you come in on JPJ?
I think this is a big season for him. I like a lot of what he did outside of the penalties and all last season, which, as we pointed out several times, came over a course of just a handful of games there. But there's far too many of those. Former 2nd-round draft pick, 70 tackles last season, 2 for loss, 1 interception, 7 passes defense. 971 regular season snaps on defense, 78 more in special teams. Also, obviously played in the lone playoff game last season, had 6 total tackles, 1 pass defense in there. I think overall in coverage, not bad. Could have been maybe a little bit better overall in coverage, but he did have a lot of key. He's got good closing speed, and that length helps make up for that as well too, with those long arms as well too. So I think he made progress there outside. Here it is. Here's what I wrote here. The biggest bugaboo, if you will, in 2024 with Porter was his penalties. He was flagged 15 times in 2024 for 126 yards. 6 of those penalties came in that one game. Additionally, 6 were for DPI, 5 were for defensive holding, 2 more for illegal use of hands. He was flagged twice more in the Steelers' lone playoff game, both for defensive holding. Keep in mind that Porter was also flagged 12 times during his 2023 rookie season here. You're seeing a pattern, Alex. It's not a great pattern right now. We've joked about, man, find out what the other player's uniform color is going to be and buy gloves that match that. It won't hurt, I promise you. Got to get these penalties under control. First and foremost, never was a big interception guy, obviously in college, but wasn't targeted a lot. You'd like to see more than one. The pass, I think he made progress in the pass defense department. I think one of the biggest, most notable jumps with Porter in 2024 was the willingness and the ability to tackle. From his rookie season to his second season, you really saw, I think, an improvement in that area. Can he stand to get better? Can his form be better? Absolutely. So I think there's still a bite of the apple to take when it comes to coverage, when it comes to ability, willingness and ability to tackle. And Lord knows there's a huge bite of the apple to be had when it comes to keeping these penalties down. He put that defense in a lot of precarious situations with all those penalties. And yeah, I know you can one off of it just to 2 games, but you just can't have this talk every year about, except for 2 games and 12 penalties, six penalties, or whatever the penalty total is in those 2 games. You just can't. You just can't keep excusing that kind of thing. Now, look, this is a big year for him, because if he takes a huge step forward or another step forward this year in 2025, he's going to be in line to be a top 10 paid corner in the NFL. And the Steelers are counting on that happening. They want to give him the money next offseason, but he's got to earn it.
I'm with you. I mean, I think there's a lot to like about his game. I'm not in the camp of him being a Pro Bowl, clear-cut shutdown corner yet, but if he can clean up those penalties, I understand that's a big caveat, but if he can do that, and as you said, just eliminate the bunches, because the majority of them came in a handful of games. I think the Denver game, of course, the Bengals game with 6, I think the Commanders game as well. He's shown the ability to play clean for stretches of time. So can you find that more consistently? Can you panic less with the ball in the air? Those are going to be the big things with him. Other than that, his play, I think, has been pretty solid for a guy that routinely and often faces number 1 opposing receivers. He's allowed 1 touchdown in 2 years, which is a fantastic number. I think that 1 touchdown in his rookie season came off of busted coverage, miscommunication that wasn't him, giving up the play in true kind of standard conventional fashion. So I have confidence in him, but still things to work on. And that relationship between new DBs coach Gerald Alexander and Porter is going to be really, really important. Can Alexander teach him and get him to approach the game in a way that Grady Brown could not? Frankly, I think behind the Aaron Rodgers, Arthur Smith relationship, the second most important coaching player relationship this year will be the one between Alexander and Porter.
And look, I know we talked about a lot of those penalties coming in a couple games, but I mean, get to crunch time in the playoffs there. He had 2 defensive holding calls in the playoffs against the Ravens. I mean, that's a crunch time game, right? And you can't. One of those, I believe, wasn't it on a 2nd and 7 to Mark Andrews for 6 yards, and it was wiped out by a no play by Joey Porter on a defensive holding there. Yeah, I agree. Some of these are ticky tack on him, but he's got that reputation right now. So over the first 2 seasons with the number of penalties that he's had, he's got to get for that. That's the biggest area of growth I think you can see in his game this year is, man, cut those penalties down to, I mean, they're going to happen. You're going to get calls to go against you at times. You're going to legitimately hold. And I mean, everybody holds, right? It's just whether or not you get caught. But let's keep those things down to 5 or 6 for a season.
And don't have 6 in a
one
game.
game.
Right. I mean, that's the real killer when you just stack and stack and stack. And, refs notice that, you gain a reputation, and it becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy where he's the guy that gets called for penalties, and so you naturally get called for more penalties. Can you break that reputation? It can be hard to do, but he'll have to do it. And I wish he would match the gloves. I don't know why he's so against it. I know it's not going to solve everything. I'm not pretending this is a cure-all where you change the gloves and you're penalty-free, but do everything you can to help. I still want to do a study on that. I don't know if I'll have time to get into the details of it, but we'll see. Cut down the penalties however he can, whatever he has to do. Needs to get it done. Next on the list is Patrick Queen.
Look, I know we write about that. We talk about it, and then he probably laughs at it and probably, says, you guys don't know. Look, whatever it takes to find whatever little edge, it's not stupid, silly just to suggest you wear the same color gloves, harder to see.
What did Bill Walsh say? The Winning Edge? That was the title of his book. The Winning Edge can come in a lot of forms and fashions. Right. And that's not to sit there and say that you wear the same gloves and you don't worry about your technique anymore. You call it a day. No, of course not. You do both. You do every single thing that you can to gain an advantage technically, apparel-wise. And listen, some corners swear by it, some don't. Some coaches swear by it, some don't. So it's not like we're the only ones who talk about this. Right. There were some NFL players and personnel members that think it matters. He doesn't, but we'll agree to disagree. And until those penalties clean up, I think he should be still considering it.
Yeah, look, if he just wears the gold gloves or whatever next season and has 5 or 6 penalties, we'll publicly apologize to him on this podcast. Okay, good for you. You didn't switch gloves, you got the penalties down.
Next on the list is Patrick Queen. And some news here. This one surprised me a little bit, even though it ultimately doesn't mean a whole lot. Queen was just named the 75th overall player on the NFL Top 100 list. And so Queen ranking above Cam Hayward, which is also surprising. I didn't think Queen would be on the list, period, but he is at number 75 overall as voted on by the players, entering his second year in Pittsburgh and a first year that I would say underwhelmed, but really kind of makes this 2025 season a really important one for Queen and company.
Didn't they say prior to this that there was only 2 players on the list?
I don't remember hearing that. I assumed so, which is going to be Hayward and Watt, but okay. I don't know if that was ever said. I thought would Metcalf make the list? He was 80-something last year. I don't know if he's going to make it. Doesn't seem like it if he's not on the list already, but I wouldn't had predicted Queen to make it at this point either.
And Queen's ranked ahead of Cameron Hayward?
Yes, Hayward was 83 and Queen is 75.
Yeah, we need some auditing done here, as has been the case since the inception of this this process and all. Look, I'm not going to sit here and bash Patrick Queen for 5 minutes of the show here, but I think the team wanted a little bit more out of him, obviously, than what they got. Obviously, having to wear the green dot and get used to the defense and everything that goes along with that. I thought it could have been a little bit better. He still had a high, 129 total tackles. I think we said this the other day, maybe during the live stream or whatnot. This is a guy that legitimately, plausibly could have 150 tackles for you in the season if things go well. He's going to be on the field nearly every snap. Teams obviously probably going to try to run the football against the Steelers in 2025 quite a bit. I'm not saying that he did have some missed tackles. I think 21 missed tackles last year according to PFF. I don't know what Josh maybe had him down for. Maybe needed, but usually Josh is pretty close to that overall. I think one of the key things with him was the missed interceptions. There was probably 2 or 3 that I think could have been some game-changing plays for him last year as well, too. Allowed 67 receptions for 728 yards, according to PFF charting, whatever you want to make of that. 1 touchdown. A lot of miscommunication on defense as well. Queen being the quarterback of that unit, some of that blame must lay on at his feet, no matter who's at blame overall. You want to see this guy look a lot more comfortable in the defense. We want to see the inside linebackers. This is another thing we talked about, I think, during the live stream the other night. More splash, more of these things that show up other than tackles in the box score scouting of games. Tackles for losses, interceptions, forced fumbles, passes defense, those kind of things there. We not only out of Queen, we need to see this out of the inside linebacker room as a whole. This team, as we mentioned several times, got to be stouter up the spine, specifically against the run. Queen's going to have to play a big role in that as well too. He's obviously going to be your main guy in the middle this season. That's the outlook for him. You just want to see him have a better season than he had last season. And I think if we're sitting here kind of talking about a duplicate season of 2024 and 2025, you do have to kind of wonder, will he see 2026? Because he's due $13.83 million in 20, or no, that's what he's due this year. Next year, he's scheduled to earn $13.33 million. That's not a lot in relation to the cap and all like that. But I mean, you brought this guy in to be your starter, to be your green dot. Where you want to see this guy have a better season in 2025 than he had in 2024, and I think he has it in him. We just got to see it.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I think where it starts is just communication. The big question about Patrick Queen is, can he wear the green dot and still play well? In Baltimore, his play got a whole lot better when Baltimore traded for Roquan Smith, and Smith took the green dot, and Queen didn't have to assume those duties anymore. Saw it in Pittsburgh last year. Now you're in a new system, and you have to get used to that, and not all the communication stuff is on him, but he is the hub. He is the guy that's your every down linebacker, paid as such, playing as such, and so you need to kind of prove the narrative wrong that he can still play at a high level, because he's going to have to wear the green dot. He's getting paid to be the every down linebacker. He is your every down linebacker, and so he has to assume that role. Hopefully in his second year, fully comfortable within the defensive system, things for himself, and the defense will be better. So that's where it starts for me, is the communication aspect. From there, cleaning up missed tackles, as you said, a little more splash, a little more consistent impact, not just in interceptions, but tackles for loss. As a pass rusher, how many sacks did Patrick Queen have last year, Dave? Not many, I don't think.
1 sack, and this is a guy that can get after the quarterback in a hurry in a straight line situation, green dog or whatever. I mean, clean him up. However, I was a little bit surprised that he only had 1 sack last year.
Right, that was a career low for him, looking up his stats. Now, I don't know how often he rushed, and sacks can be a little fickle, but, you're just looking for more splash overall. He had interceptions his previous 2 years in Baltimore, didn't have one last season. All those types of things you're looking for. He had his career low in tackles for loss, second career low in a single season in quarterback hits, so that's what you're looking for. I think a defensive line to play stronger can keep him clean too. Now, Queen's got to play well, but anytime your defensive line can leave those guys unblocked, especially more run and chase, athletic, fast flow linebackers like Queen, like Peyton Wilson, that's a benefit, obviously. So can it upgrade a defensive line? And hopefully it is. With Harmon, the other additions will keep guys like Queen and Wilson free to let them play at their best.
Let's see. Did he lead the team in tackles? Elliott had quite a few.
Queen had to have led. Elliott missed some time. Yeah, Queen 129 combined. Elliott second at 108.
No, I'm at tackles for loss.
Oh, I'm sorry, tackles for loss. No, T.J. Watt had 19, Hayward 12, Highsmith 9, and then Queen with 6.
All right. He can up that number a little bit from 6, right?
Oh, yeah. You want to see that. Double digits is what I'm looking for from Queen, 10 or more.
All right. And I mean, look, if he kept his his total tackles at 129 and upped the tackles for loss and added 2 more sacks and had an interception or 2, those within himself, those key splash plays would make huge differences in games, I think. And then obviously play well against the run overall.
Right, and communicate it out, especially with a lot of new pieces, a defense that may be more complex. Want to see the communication be strong. That's where it all has to start for Queen and for the Steelers defense.
All right.
Next on the list is Mark Robinson. So sticking in the inside linebacker room, Robinson entering the last year of his rookie contract, carved out a good role as a thumping special teamer, forced a couple of fumbles last year, but will be fighting potentially a two dogs, one bone situation between him and 7th-round rookie Carson Bruner.
Look, the parking meter is almost out of time, and I don't have any change in my pocket right now. That's kind of where it feels like where we're at with Mark Robinson at this point. Logged just 8 defensive snaps in 2024. This is a guy that Terrell Austin, when asked about him, always seems to be talking about next year. Next year with Mark Robinson. Well, we're about out of next year's when it comes to Mark Robinson. Now, he did log 301 snaps on special teams, logged another 5 in the in the playoff game, had those 2 forced fumbles, 6 combined tackles on special teams. That's his calling card right now, because it sort of like James Pierre, right? They just don't, not a guy that they seem to trust out there on the defensive side of the football. And this room is pretty full right now. When you talk about guys, obviously like Queen, Peyton Wilson, got Cole Holcomb coming back from injury. You drafted Bruner. Who else is in that room, Alex? Mark Robinson, obviously. Malik Harrison, you added him. And let's not forget about him. He's a damn near lock to. He is a lock to make this roster here. So if they keep 5 in total, somebody's going to be out. Is it Holcomb? You got to think that Carson Bruner, if Carson Bruner can give you what Mark Robinson gives you on special teams, that's a cheaper, little bit probably more apt to play in the defensive side of football, downhill type guy. Overall, more instinctual probably as well too. Mark Robinson might need some help, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have to earn it for sure. Nothing given with Mark Robinson. I mean, they'd have carved out some specialty package rundown snaps for him. There were some 3-5 looks late in the season where he did get some playing time, but clearly he is a special teamer, and Carson Bruner is younger and can wear that special team hat as well. A lot rides on the battle there and Bruner's performance, Cole Holcomb's health. How does he look? Robinson, I think, is really one of those true bubble players entering training camp.
Yeah, it feels like he might be on the outside looking in here as we start training camp. Obviously, things can happen. Once again, Cole Holcomb, you got a big question mark with Cole Holcomb coming back from that injury. Obviously, you want to see what Carson Bruner brings to that room, especially on special teams. There should, for whatever reason, Mark Robinson not make the 53-man roster, there's a chance you get this guy back on the practice squad.
Sure, I'd be happy with that, to have good inside linebacker and really strong special team depth should there be an injury that has to reshuffle the deck on special teams, and there likely will be at some point during the season. All right, next on the list, a name we'll talk about. We've already talked about a lot the entire offseason, and the headline name we'll talk about throughout the entire 2025 season and probably beyond. Aaron Rodgers, the 3-month wait ended in Rodgers signing in June, a 1-year deal. Rodgers later saying that 2025 is likely to be his final NFL season, his 21st in the league. So don't need to spend a lot of time on Rodgers. We've already talked about him so much. During training camp, Dave, what is the number one thing you want to watch or hear or learn about Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I'll tell you this, first and foremost, one of the most important players on the roster here, and we're probably going to spend the less time talking about him because we've talked so much about him. What is there more to say? I think that's a good question. What am I looking for in training camp with him? I guess just command of the offense, overall, see how much maybe they use him in type of half roll boot out type situations there. Obviously just want the guy to stay healthy, not I don't want to hear about him having to do any blocking sled drills or anything like that. Overall, what does this guy have to prove during training camp really overall, other than coming in, new offense and showing command of that, meshing in well with the teammates and all like that. I don't know that I really have one in particular thing. I don't know how much this team is going to show us as far as offensive scheme. during training camp and the preseason. He's probably not going to play a ton during the preseason overall. I
If he plays at all, which is still a
yeah.
debate. Typically, he doesn't, but there's a case to be made.
I guess the biggest thing I want to hear from you is how does he look mobility wise?
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you said, in some ways he has nothing to prove because he's Aaron Rodgers. He's a four-time MVP, future Hall of Famer. Training camp doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things for those guys. But on the other hand, he's still a brand new quarterback to this team, and there's a whole lot to prove. He's coming off a 5-win season. He tore his Achilles the year before. It's not like he's coming off these amazing campaigns. So it's a really interesting situation for a lot of reasons. Obviously, what I'm looking for most, I want to see the reps. Does he get off days like Ben did? Does he work every day? How do they manage the workload for a 41-year-old, soon to be 42-year-old quarterback? That'll be interesting overall. That balance between getting reps and getting work with the guys. He didn't even work in team periods in mandatory minicamp. He was working just individuals. So there's still a lot of time to catch up on, assimilating into this offense fully and those team components. I want to see him work with these younger receivers, Dave, the Roman Wilsons of the world, the Calvin Austins of the world. Do they stay after practice and get some extra reps and that kind of stuff? I think Rodgers' reputation is he typically doesn't have great success with younger first and second year receivers, Wilson included in this scenario. So I want to see that. But just overall, just as you said, kind of command, the feel, the extra work they put in. I just want to see how many reps he gets overall this summer.
I'm going to tongue twist you here. The 2025 version of Rodgers is obviously a far cry from the 2010 version of Aaron Rodgers. In fact, the 2025 version is probably a far cry from the 2021 version, which was his last very good season with the Packers in Green Bay. Should be able to still obviously win some games for the Steelers in 2025, maybe potentially get them into the playoffs as well here. If the Steelers really want to win, at least this is my final sentence here. If the Steelers really want to win at least one playoff game in 2025, this season's Aaron Rodgers must be a lot better than the 2024 version. For the Steelers to win the Super Bowl this season, Rodgers probably needs to be more like the 2016 version of himself. And I think at age 41, that's a lot to ask for. I think a tag onto this and a kind of way to close out our discussion with Aaron Rodgers is to bring up some betting numbers here, and at least where the public and where they're trying to get the money to come in on Aaron Rodgers. And we just broke down recently going through what we expected passing stats were for Aaron Rodgers. DraftKings has Aaron Rodgers at 3,200.5 over under on Aaron Rodgers this season. I think both of us obviously, and Ross and most everybody probably, as we sit right now, would slam that over really, really hard. Say, man, you telling me this guy can't throw for 3,200 yards with the Steelers in 2025? Why do you this is, there's no probably right answer. Why do you think that's the line right now to try to attract money on both sides for Aaron Rodgers on the over under of 3,200? Is it just concerned about his health, fit in the offense? 3,200 would be, at a minimum, probably about 500, 600 fewer than probably what I'm expecting Rodgers to put up.
My terrible take is actually on the topic today. I think one reason is over the last 3 seasons, Pittsburgh is 27th in total passing yards. Only a handful of teams obviously are worse, and those are some real bottom feeders. The Patriots, I think that maybe I forget who else is on that list, but Pittsburgh has not been prolific in the passing yards department. And last year, I think they combined for just over 3,100 passing yards between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and the one throw by Kyle Allen. So I think the run heavy nature of the offense combined with potential betting on him not playing a full season, although historically he's been a very durable quarterback, the Achilles tear aside are the reasons why that projection is lower than what we're thinking.
Yeah. Look, it's going to be interesting to watch this play out. I'm excited to watch it play out. Overall, I think this guy, if this defense is good, and this is another thing I think we talked about the other day in live stream about the defensive adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat number for the Steelers should be able to be a little bit better than it was last year, and it wasn't bad at all last year in totality. This team's probably going to want to be in a lot of rock fight games, run the football, convert on third down, still stretch the field in certain situations, not to be afraid to throw toward the middle of the field, unlike most of the last 5-6 years or what have you. He can throw for 3,200 yards, and this team still win games as long as he's not taking sacks and turning the football over. And he's been pretty good overall of not getting into those double-digit interception numbers overall. So stats are stats. You can still win with a quarterback that only throws for 3,200 yards, but you better not be turning the football over. You better not be taking sacks. He's played in the NFL a long time. I think above the shoulders, he's one of the best, if not the best in the NFL. Going to a new offense, having to use tight ends potentially more than he's ever used use running backs out of the backfield might be a little bit of adjustment for him overall. But, if he stays healthy and this defense plays good enough, they're going to be in the situation where Aaron Rodgers can win them some games, I think.
Dave, I'm going to lay a trap for you, and I'm so confident that you're going to walk into my trap that I'm going to let you know that I'm laying a trap for you.
Yeah, much like Jeopardy today, right?
That's exactly. Today is full of traps. I am the dude from Saw. I feel like Jigsaw is his name. I think. I don't know. I didn't watch the movies. How many pass attempts do you think Aaron Rodgers has in 2025 as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers? He had 584 last year. That was second in the NFL. We both agree that's probably far too many for what anyone in Pittsburgh should want or expect Rodgers to have this year.
Attempts.
Total pass attempts in a Steelers offense. And assume even he plays all 17 games. I have a number in mind.
Hold on a minute here.
Okay. Because Pittsburgh loves to run the football. As I said, Arthur Smith, every year but one, his teams have been top 5.
I'm coming up with 490.
Okay, 490 attempts. What do you think his yards per attempt will be? In 2024, it was 6.7. 2023, we'll throw out because of the injury. 2022 in Green Bay, 6.8. For a guy that does get the ball out pretty quickly, what do you think his yards per attempt will come in at this year on those 490 pass attempts? Which I think is a reasonable number. I was thinking 500, so I'm right there with you.
You're going to have to allow me to do some math here real quick.
Okay, I mean, just a rough number, yards per attempt. We assume it's not going to be 5. We assume it probably won't be the 8s that he was doing in the prime of his career. He had 6.7 last year, 6.8 his fully healthy season the year before. Seems like a pretty good pattern indication of where he should be.
I'm going to go 6.5.
6.5 yards per attempt. So we do 490 attempts times 6.5 yards per attempt. What do we get? We get 3185, which is right around that over-under of what that betting line is on his yards. So that's where I think that's where the odds makers are getting his yards at. I think 500 attempts, just under 7 yards per attempt is where he'll be, which gets you pretty close to that over-under number.
All right, so I have shot way too high on him. You have shot way too high on him, right? Didn't you say what'd you say in your loose prediction the other day?
I said 3,500, and I'm putting him at 500 attempts at just under 7, which gets you to 3,450, which is basically in line with my projection.
Okay. All right. So within that, I think, if we do the math like this, then 4,000 seems out of the question unless, this team's playing from behind a lot, right?
Right, because this is a Rodgers that gets the ball out quickly, that finds his check down, which brings that yards per attempt down. You talked about you think DK Metcalf's yards per reception numbers are going to be on the lower end of things. Teams trying to take him away, which is reasonable. So I think that's where the odds makers are getting the lower yardage projection from.
And I do think, though, with the because 6.5 would be his lowest yards per attempt on a full season of his career. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially when you consider you hope that ball comes out quicker. He's probably going to have to use the tight ends and the running backs more, right? So it's reasonable to expect that, the yards per attempt might be muted some.
And even if you give him last year's a 6.7, you get on 490 pass attempts, you get 3,283 yards. And what was the over-under from whatever outlet that was?
3,200.5.
Okay, so you're basically right there. So that's where I think those numbers are coming from. When you reverse engineer it based off of pass attempts and his yards per attempt, I think we bring those yardage numbers down from our conversation before.
All right, did I make it through the trap?
I think you kind of walked into it because your projection was what, 3,700 the other day,
Yeah,
and now we're sitting at like 3,200. So yeah,
that's quite a bit of difference. That's 500 yards. So yeah, I think the main thing from this whole exercise with Ross and you and me and all like that is the expectations for Aaron Rodgers might be too high globally from the fan base and analysts.
right, just math in the math. But as you said, just because he doesn't throw for a ton of yards can be a good thing. It means you're running the football. It means you're probably ahead of games. It means that you're not having to put everything on his shoulders, which is how it should be. So the numbers only tell you so much. For fantasy heads, it matters everything. For Steelers fans, it can mean a whole lot, something else in different context.
Right.
All right, let's go to Mason Rudolph.
Definitely need a higher adjusted net yards per passing attempt number than 5.87 that he put up last year.
And your target is what, 6.2?
Yeah, I'd like to see with a guy like Rodgers. I want to see 6.3, 6.4, maybe even 6.5 with him. And that.
Well, he hasn't done that. Well,
Yeah.
2021, I guess. I think if he gets above 6, you take it. Probably a little higher. 6.2 is probably the number to shoot for.
And you can win games once again if your defense is a little bit better, specifically against the run, and we expect it to be a little bit better against the pass. I think because sacks were down last year, and they still managed to put up the number that they did last year, which was I think easily top third in the league when it came to that number. So they can. Long story short, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, Aaron Rodgers does not turn the football over, Aaron Rodgers is not sacked more than say 40 times, this team, and they can run the ball, they can win some games. That's a lot of if, but I mean that's you got a guy that I think can get it done.
I'm with you. Clean pocket, it's going to be key for him. If he can have a clean pocket and make plays from there, he'll be a really good quarterback. If he's under duress, making a lot of off-platform throws, scrambling for his life. Going to be a long season, I think. Let's go to his backup, Mason Rudolph.
We ended up talking a lot about him, didn't we?
That's how it all roads lead to Aaron Rodgers. So even we're guilty of that. Let's go to his backup, Mason Rudolph, who signed a 2-year, $8 million contract coming over, returning after a 1-year stint in Tennessee. What are your thoughts and expectations for Mason Rudolph?
Your number 2. I am not a number. I am a free man. Look,
don't get that reference. So whatever movie you're referencing.
That's from the old movie and all like that. But anyway, this is a guy unequivocally should be your number 2. I know some people are trying to talk about, well, can he get pressed by Will Howard? And look, I think Mason Rudolph would have to have a miserable training camp and preseason combined and just look absolutely horrible. And Will Howard would really have to just be phenomenal to overtake him. So I think it goes without saying with the money that you spent on Mason Rudolph, this is a guy that you have tapped to be the backup to Aaron Rodgers there. Obviously went away from Pittsburgh last year, went with the Titans, started 5 games. 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, but did throw 9 interceptions. The Titans were 1-4 in those 5 games. You can't put all that on Mason Rudolph. Was sacked 11 times, rushed for 106 yards on 25 total attempts. This is a guy that's obviously at this point now played in some games. I think there's a plus that comes along with that. Can still throw a relatively nice deep ball. I think first and foremost, I mean, what has been the most memorable playing time of Mason Rudolph's career so far? It came in those final 3 regular season games of 2023 when the Steelers had to have these games. They had to win. Just win, Mason. Save Christmas, Mason. All that, and he did that. He played extremely well, I thought, in those 3. What did he have? Like an adjusted net yards per passing attempt number of like over 9. In those 3 games. I mean, say what you will, he played a big part in getting the Steelers, and he started the season as a third string quarterback for most of the 2023 season. So I think that says a lot for him. I think coming back to Pittsburgh now, he's going to feel a lot more comfortable in that backup role. He's beyond the hate like merry-go-round that goes with him particularly, and uh, yeah, I think you could do worse for a backup quarterback in the NFL with the experience that he has. That being said, I hope we don't have to see a lot of Mason Rudolph play in 2025.
Sure. He is in the ideal role. Number 2 quarterback, top backup. He's a competent backup who can come off the bench, spot start a game or two, run your offense exactly the way the coaching staff wants it to be run, and nothing more, nothing less. He is a quality backup, and that's the role that he's always probably been destined for, and the one he's finally settled into in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And she'll get a lot of reps. I don't know how we'll see how many reps Rodgers gets in the training camp and preseason if he gets any. If he gets any reps, it'll be pretty minimal, 10, 15 playing that tune-up game, but Rudolph should get a lot of time in the preseason. I know we probably differ a little bit on how much that'll be.
Yeah.
You think Will Howard should get more. I think Rudolph will get a fair amount, but either way, those guys will get plenty of opportunities.
Look, you obviously got to, coming back in a new offense and all like that. He is your backup. You're not going to play Aaron a lot. And you're probably not going to play Skylar Thompson a whole ton of a lot. You're obviously going to want to get Will Howard some snaps, but it's not like he's going to play 3 full games. Some of those snaps have got to go elsewhere. I just don't know that you've got to see an exorbitant amount of snaps out of Mason Rudolph,
Sure.
like we said. So it will be interesting to track that. A couple series here, a couple series there. And if he looks good when he is out there, maybe you say, okay, he's fine. Let's take a longer look at, let's give Thompson a longer look. Let's give Will Howard a longer look here. But I think you kind of know what Mason Rudolph is at this point, just getting him comfortable in that offense.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. Next on the list, the backup kicker, Ben Sauls from Pitt. He had a really strong career with the Panthers. The left-footed kicker, which might be the most interesting thing to talk about, Ben Sauls. You don't see the left-footed kicker too often, but coming off a big season. Kind of surprised he came to Pittsburgh and signed with the Steelers. Thought he might have a chance to go elsewhere, compete for a job with Boswell on the roster. It's hard to see the path for Sauls going forward, but he's right at home in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, look, spend your college career kicking at Pitt and at Acrisure Stadium. You know the ins and outs of that. He did reasonably well overall, I thought, for his college career. 52 of 64 on field goal attempts in college and 122 of 124 on extra points. 7 of 12 of his field goals during his college career came when it came to attempts of 50 yards or longer, in addition to going 45 of 52 on attempts shorter than 50 yards. He only had 1 field goal blocked during his college career, I believe. Career long in college was 58 yards, and he made 3 others of 57 yards out as well, too. All 4 of his career longest field goals, I believe he made, came during the 2024 season. Look, this is Chris Boswell's job. Everybody knows that. He knows that as well, too. I would imagine he'll get quite the audition during the preseason. Interested to see his kickoff, see if he can go perfect in whatever situation that he's put out there in field goals there. Who knows? Maybe he shows enough there to get another team come calling on him. I don't know if the Steelers would keep an extra kicker on the practice squad. I think we've seen some teams do that around the league. We'll see. I mean, obviously, you could maybe make that work if you had to. Long story short, you want to get a good look at Ben Sauls because you never know what might happen during the season when it comes to injuries. And even though Chris Boswell is under contract through next season, who knows what happens there? So you want to have a guy that you know a lot about. Should emergency strike, should he be on the street or whatever, you just want to give him every opportunity to show off what he has.
And she'll get a lot of opportunities in the preseason. They're probably not going to work Boswell too hard overall. He'll get some reps in, get his kicks in, but Saul should get lots of opportunities in the preseason. It's funny, you're right. Acrisure is going to be familiar, but he'll hardly be kicking in Acrisure, right? There's 1 home game in the preseason. Of course, they're at training camp. They'll go back and practice once they break training camp, I suppose. That's not going to be at Acrisure it's going to be at their facility, but Obviously, just familiar overall. The team knows him. He knows the organization pretty well, and so that all fits. His leg strength really improved. As you said, last year was really, really good from distance. He's kicked in clutch moments. Go back to the Sun Bowl against UCLA 3 years ago on a hellacious wind day out there, I think in California, and he kicked the game winner from decent distance from the right hash. And so he's been a really good kicker overall. Overcame some early career struggles at Pitt where he lost some opportunities. I think back to Matthew Wright, who signed with Pittsburgh out of Central Florida years back and knew he had no chance of beating out Boswell and didn't, but hung around the NFL on the tryout circuit, came back to Pittsburgh a time or two when Boswell got hurt. So it's really about putting on good tape and, getting looks from other teams who may need kicker help during the season.
Correctamundo.
All right, let's try to get through one last section of our 90 and 30. Let's go with Jack Sawyer, the fourth-round rookie outside linebacker from Ohio State. Should be the number 4 outside linebacker behind TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig. Dave.
I'm probably a little bit more bullish on Jack Sawyer than most after learning a lot more about him post draft here. Obviously, a 4th-round player. We kind of, because they had brought in some guys for pre-draft visited outside linebacker, edge rusher type players there. Kind of wondered maybe if this would be something the Steelers did later in the draft. I think, long story short, I think they viewed Sawyer as the best player on the board in the situation. You can never have too many guys that can stop the run and rush the passer on the outside there. Obviously, an Ohio State product, a real clean prospect overall, hearts and smarts kind of kid. He fits what they look for. 6'2", 260 pounds, 31 3/4 inch arms, pretty nice hands. Was a team captain at Ohio State in 2024. Played nearly 700 defensive snaps. Didn't log a lot of special team snaps as a senior. He was charted as playing 119 in total throughout his college career. Most of those special team snaps came on the punt return and field goal block units. Enters the NFL having already turned 23, so he's an older prospect here. I think one of the things that sticks out to me when it comes to his college tape overall is he predominantly played on the left side of the Ohio State defense there. Very few snaps on the right side. It will be interesting to see throughout training camp and the preseason how much he gets moved around, maybe over to the other side. That's A. Second, I thought he was a fairly stout player against the run. In college, he should get even better as a pass rusher in Pittsburgh, especially when learning from the likes of Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig. He is, to me, a player that's easy to be bullish on when it comes to this class overall. I imagine he's going to make why wouldn't he? It was very rare that 4th-round draft picks don't make rosters, so he should be on the 53-man roster. He should get his fair share of special team snaps in 2025. And there's no reason he won't be active for every Steelers game throughout his rookie season. I kind of have him, barring injury and all like that, maybe playing, 130 defensive snaps as a rookie. Is that too much? And if indeed that's the number, I'm excited to see those snaps. I think they got a quality young, a little bit more than a developmental guy, if you will, overall when it comes to Jack Sawyer. And I just think this is a guy that goes out there and gets it done. And I think he can develop a little bit more as a run defender and as a pass rusher. So I'm bullish on him.
And I think he'll probably get more snaps because you assume that not everyone is going to stay healthy the entire season. We've seen so many injuries in years past, last year to Herbig and Highsmith, TJ Watt years before. So that's going to naturally probably lend itself where Sawyer's playing, if he stays healthy, 200-plus defensive snaps this year. Even as a number 4 with the group fully healthy, you're probably getting 5-10 snaps a game. They're going to rotate these guys in and give them some breathers, especially as TJ Watt gets a little bit older. So, yeah, I think there's an opportunity for Sawyer to see a lot of playing time. Most of it will still come on special teams, but he's a playmaker, as you said, just got the job done. Think about that game against Texas last year, the clutch plays that he made. Captain Jack was called that for a reason. I think he plays to run really hard, sets a physical edge, has the size and the mentality and demeanor Pittsburgh looks for. The question about Jack Sawyer is his overall athleticism. Can he bend the edge? Can he threaten on the outside? Can he dip through? Or is he going to be just kind of a pure power, collapse the pocket, not going to get a lot of pressure, not get a lot of sacks kind of a guy. So how athletic is he? Does that do any athletic limitations limit his ceiling is going to be the real question about what Sawyer can be. I think at worst, though, he'll be a high floor backup quality rotational outside linebacker. Can he be more is the question, but if all you get is a quality number 3 for the long term, you're doing pretty good in the 4th round.
Yeah, and like I said, I have him down kind of initially 130 snaps, and that breaks down to 7.65 per game.
I think we'll beat it.
Okay.
What's his upside?
Due to injury?
Due to injury, and also even just naturally, I think putting 10 snaps a game as a number 4 outside linebacker is probably a fair number to ascribe. So even if you just work that math, 10 times 17 gets you 170.
All right.
What's his upside, do you think? Best case scenario?
I think he could potentially be a starter down the road.
Okay. I'm a little more skeptical of that. I know you said you're more bullish on him than me, so that's probably proven true, but fair. And, Nick Herbig, is he going to be here past 2026? I'm not thinking he will be. So Sawyer could really see this could be kind of a plan for life without Nick Herbig at some point, Dave.
And then when you get into year 3, year 4 of Sawyer, assuming he's still on the roster, Highsmith going to be working out close to the final year of his deal. Herbig might be gone.
Watt will be in his mid-30s at that point.
I'm from the moment his name was called in the draft, from where we're at now, I've really become bullish on him.
Okay, fair enough. I think he fits the goal of the offseason, which was to get more physical, more tough, more intense on both sides of the football. I think Sawyer certainly checks that box.
All right.
Let's go to Max Sharping, backup offensive lineman, signed midway through last season when Pittsburgh had all the injuries, played just a little bit. I think he got a couple of snaps in that Chiefs Christmas Day loss on that final possession there. Beyond that, not a lot of playing time for Sharping, a former highly drafted player from Houston, out of Northern Illinois, but drafted by the Houston Texans, what I'm trying to say. So all of that to say he'll be battling for a spot on this roster as a backup, Dave.
Yeah, and he's got, obviously he's had more than a cup of coffee. I think he's logged, a little over 2,000 offensive snaps and another 339 more on special teams. However, he last started a game in 2021. He's played both guard positions in the NFL as well as right tackle and even, I think, a few snaps at center. His natural NFL position is obviously guard. Look, we talked the other day who's the best offensive lineman and who's the best backup, right now. Ryan McCollum, I think we came to the conclusion that Ryan McCollum, maybe pound for pound, position by position, might be the best backup this team has. And if indeed that's the case, what does that say about a guy like Max Sharping? It's going to take a little bit of luck and maybe an injury or some unfortunate situation for someone else, I think, for Sharping to make this team this year. You got a lot of guards on this roster too, bucking for positions. I don't like the aspects of him making the 53-man roster. I do think, though, if he winds up being cut as a final, transaction or two here, there's always a chance he could be resigned to the practice squad as one of those veteran additions. But look, even if he does make the 53-man roster, he's probably not a guy that's going to dress for games, and you don't want to get in a situation where you have to see Max Sharping play on that offensive line, I don't think.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of his game. Even coming out of college, he was a tackle. Was he really athletic? What's his calling card? And he's really kind of bounced around in recent years, but you do have to carry, at least they are going to, you would expect, carry 9 offensive linemen on the 53. You have your starting 5. McCollum, Anderson will go 6 and 7.
Anderson? Maybe another Anderson?
Spencer Anderson. I still have some questions there, but put him as number 8. Who's number 9?
That's a good question.
It's wide open.
When you got McCollum, that's guard capable. You got obviously Spencer Anderson, guard capable. It feels like it would be more along the lines that a tackle that maybe could play inside.
like a Dylan Cook, potentially. We'll see about Nick Broker, Doug Nestor, who we talked about. It's really a jumbled up mess right now. I also think you're looking for outside additions, too. I think Pittsburgh really has to find some outside help along the offensive line through trade, through waiver. I know it's always hard to find those offensive linemen. There's such a scarce resource teams want to covet, but I think they're going to add an offensive lineman who's not on this roster right now come when they play the Jets week 1, September 7th.
All right, that'd be nice to talk about if that happens there. Long story short, don't buy a Max Sharping jersey because he could be completely out of Pittsburgh by week 1.
I just ordered it though, Dave, so I wish we would have had this segment earlier. Trey Sermon next on the list, signed after rookie minicamp. He was a veteran tryout with the team. He is known for running over Pittsburgh in that 2023 Colts win. Guy that Pittsburgh's always seemed to have an eye on when it coming out of Ohio State, and he's got some size. Has a tough path to make the 53, but practice squad is certainly realistic for Trey Sermon.
Yeah, we already talked about Cordell Patterson today and how rich that running back room looks at this point. It's hard to really find a path to the 53-man roster for Trey Sermon outside of multiple injuries, and you obviously hope that doesn't happen. Probably best suited for a practice squad spot as we sit here, but he's going to have to earn that. We should see quite a bit of him during the preseason, I would think. As obviously has pretty good amount of NFL experience in games so far. Can he give you anything whatsoever on any of the special teams units to kind of help his cause a little bit? We'll see. He does have some experience on special teams since entering the NFL, although he's not considered a huge asset in that phase. So we'll see him during training camp in the preseason. I think the big question is will he do enough to end up on the practice squad in Pittsburgh, or might he show enough to end up on another 53-man roster somewhere?
Yeah, fair enough. But I like his game, and get on the practice squad when injury can be all it takes to get you some playing time. So that's where we'll wrap up today's list, Dave. Anything else going on here? If not, we can get to a couple of reader emails and close out today's show.
All right, as we get closer to the 2-hour mark here, Luke Weaver's got a book he wrote here. I guess longer question. I hear a lot of complaining from my fellow Steelers fans that the front office has not done enough to replace Roethlisberger since retirement. He says, I want to look back on the last few off seasons, who they signed and who they didn't. All right, this is going to be too long to get into today, Luke. He's got a big breakdown here of what they did each season and all. I think his main pushback overall, I haven't read the whole thing, is from this list, who should they have taken in free agency or draft or whatnot to better have gone about the process of replacing Ben Roethlisberger once he retired. And we could spend 40 minutes on this.
Yeah.
He's got this all. It's going to take too long to go through all this.
Okay.
I think overall, Luke, let's kind of table that discussion maybe for a later date. There, it's just we're running out of time here. We got a few other emails to kind of get to here, so I just don't want to buckle down. We've already kind of addressed this from another reader, didn't we? Our listener,
I'm sure,
from an email and all like that about how they could have maybe gone about for either free agency or the draft and all like that. Look, here's the big thing: they took a big swing on Kenny Pickett, hoping that would be the guy in the first round, and it wasn't. And in the meantime, they've been kind of, because of the draft and where they're picking and what's available in free agency, they've been trying to piecemeal this thing together. I mean, they obviously went out and got some, I guess, quote unquote names and pedigree guys in your Mitch Trubisky's, your Justin Fields, obviously former first round draft picks, right? And high first round draft picks at that. You go out and get a former Super Bowl winning quarterback in Russell Wilson. You tried that. You drafted Kenny Pickett, and he was the first quarterback in the draft that year. And the rest of that draft, outside of guys named Brock Purdy, really have not panned out in the NFL. Bad year to kind of have to go after a quarterback specifically in the first round that year. Could have maybe done something other in some of these other drafts and potentially moved up. I mean, you open up a wormhole, Pandora's box when you go down that road, right?
You do. I mean, it's always tricky in those later stages. Do you start planning for the future? Do you try to go in and win now? You've seen different philosophies. You've seen Pittsburgh. Let's try to win with Ben. You've seen the Packers, for example. Let's go draft for the future. I don't know. Those are bigger, complicated questions. I think there's certainly a lot of critiquing worthy over how Pittsburgh drafted those final years. I can give a little more grace to the quarterback thing, but we've addressed some of that before.
All right. This from Jeff Flowers. He did a lot of work here based off of the projections and all that we asked for the receiver group and all like that. He says he let Google's AI product Gemini forecast production from the Steelers offense this year. The prompt I gave was to look at the recent additions and look at the progression of each player over time in the projection. He says Gemini does not give hard numbers, just ranges. You have to put some context in the reasoning to the range. For the most part, I just averaged the range. So he got into a lot more projections via AI here. He says, this is my 100% stone cold lock guarantee to be wrong, but here is what the AI gods think. Most notable of my and aggressive projections. He says, hold on to your pearls. 1 rushing touchdown for Aaron Rodgers. Okay, I can get on board with that. Just net yards per passing attempt of 7.05. Boy, if Jeff, if you could guarantee me right now that Aaron Rodgers will have a NEA of 7.05, sign me up for it. He's got an A dot, average depth of target of 7.25, which isn't awful. Total rushing production for the Steelers looks like 2,225 yards and 16 TDs. Total offensive points, 418. Average points per game, 24.8. He's also got a spreadsheet attached here. I'm not going to go through all that because you got a lot of individuals. He's got DK Metcalf down for 80 catches, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns in this. He's got the Steelers rushing for 2,225 yards, 16 touchdowns on 488 carries at 4.56 yards per clip. He doesn't have passing yards, but he's got, his passing attempts is 515. Anyway, those are some rough numbers that Jeff Flowers did AI homework on. Any rough takeaways? What do you think about average points per game? 24.8.
What were they at last year, Pittsburgh? 23 or so? They were top 10 for a hot minute, and then everything fell apart at the end. That sounds reasonable. They were 22.4 last year. Love to get, what do you say, 24?
24.8. So what's that? An increase of
25.
almost 2 or something?
Yeah, well, 2.5 or so. So I hadn't thought, too intensely about my projections yet, but I'll sign up for all that, I think.
Man, sign me up right now for 24.8. Not that I think is going to happen. I'm saying if you could guarantee me this, sign me up for 24.8 points per game, no questions asked right now. And sign me up for 7.05 adjusted net yards per passing attempt. That feels rich for both those numbers.
What is a realistic points per game number, if not 24.8?
All right, let's look at real quick leaders last year, team and rankings. Rankings in the NFL offense for the regular season. Points per game, 24.8 would have been like 11th or 12th, I guess. Denver had Oh, no, let's see, it'd been about 12th, I think. It'd be top third of the league. The Chargers put up 23.6, Arizona put up 23.5. The Steelers put up 22.4. I don't know. I guess re-examine that. It's not unthinkable.
That would put them 11th based on last year's numbers. So you want to be above average. They were squarely average at 16th last year, 22.4. Of course, the last 4 games being at or under 17 points pulled those numbers down. Yeah, I think getting to at least 24 should be the goal this year.
If we said let's make a deal right now, you can have that number or take a swing at it being better or worse. Are you taking that 24.8 number?
Let's make a deal. I'll take 24.
All right, I would too. there. All right.
What number would I probably going too long. What number would I give you where you'd rather bet on it? If I gave you 23 guarantee of that, would you bet on it or would you take 23?
I think I'd take 23 if you guaranteed it to me right now.
It's tough. I think I might bet on it. I think I might try to go for more.
Okay. All right. Jeff, we appreciate all the hard work and the spreadsheet that you attached with that. One more here from, looks like Alex Wessels. He says he has DK Metcalf averages 7.5 targets per game in his career. 2022, 8.3 targets per game was the highest. He has 1,108 yards, 8 touchdowns, I guess, on average. Russ, with DK averaged 38, 11 yards, 32 touchdowns. Let's see. He's got a long breakdown here as well too. A very nice. He's got. It looks like on the spreadsheet that he's attached, Aaron Rodgers with 550 attempts, 3,850 yards, and 33 touchdowns. Wow. He's got. Let's see, DK Metcalf, he's got 85 receptions, 1,062.5 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He's got Calvin Austin, 51 catches for 586.5 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's even got Roman Wilson at 42. This feels a little rich here, especially, and he's got also Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and Washington combining to have 77 catches for 731 yards and 11 touchdowns. Something's got to give somewhere in here, it feels like.
Combined, the tight ends are at 70-something receptions and 700 yards.
77
That
receptions.
feels low.
Yeah, so this is, it feels like Alex Wessels here ran into kind of the same thing. Your perception of the drill versus doing the drill ends up being two different things, right? And that's kind of why I did all that. I think it was fun to talk about here, even though stats are just stats, especially when you consider how much you expect the tight ends to be used, yada, yada. And then, man, Alex and I just talked about how, 3,800 yards feels really, really bullish for Aaron Rodgers, right?
It does, and the Metcalf numbers, I know Russ, the numbers that the other Alex cited there, but Russ has stolen for 4,000 yards in some of those years with Metcalf, and, do we expect Rodgers to hit 4K? I'd be pretty surprised if he did. I think the tight ends are going to catch more than those projections. Receivers probably a little bit less. That's kind of my thought on those stats.
All right, final takeaway here, back to the over-under. Does it feel like that's the fairest number that's going to continue? Do you think that it feels like to me, Steeler fans any bettors would hammer the living, what, out of that 3,200.5 number. But, if they do, will it settle at about, 3,300, 3,400 yards?
Probably. I mean, it's passing yards. It doesn't tell you a whole lot about the quality of play and the quality of a season. So, it's an interesting talking point. I think we've had a lot of good back and forth on it, but I think when we kind of worked out the math of pass attempts, yards per attempt, knowing the ball gets out quick, and Rodgers has hit his check down a whole lot more often, that over/under seems actually fairly reasonable.
All right, so the main takeaway here from all this exercise and our talks and all like that is it feels like fans at least, and really us included, because I had him over as well too. Some local analysts or maybe might be too bullish on Aaron Rodgers when it comes to passing yards. Fair?
Sure. That's fair.
All right. All right. We worked through a couple of emails there. I think we're about the 2-hour mark here. We did 12 90 and 30 players. We talked some contracts. We talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers. So it's a good time to get out of here. We will be back on Friday with another show. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. We got the new Jeopardy championship round taping later this afternoon. That'll come up probably over the weekend or starting in next week before training camp there. So be on the lookout for that. You can donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions that way. So time to get on up out of here. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.